This is actually an update to a case I posted about last year. This 16-year-old was charged with murder as an adult. So on August 14th, 2022, there was a murder in Coal Hill, Arkansas. Arkansas State Police were called in to investigate because, Coal Hill is very small, and they interviewed several people involved with the case. The suspect in the case is Nick Brown, and when Nick Brown was interviewed, he said that he was at his girlfriend Taya Waters' house. Sorry if I mispronounced that. And he was going to sell cocaine to a group of guys. So like 4 guys showed up in a car, and he walked out to the car. He handed the cocaine to the front seat passenger. According to Nick Brown, the driver started to take off, so he jumped on the car. Honestly, the whole thing doesn't make any sense because Nick Brown says that the rear passenger said something to him, and so he looked up at the rear passenger, and that person was Jhovany Godoy, who was pointing a gun at him. He says the gun went off and he pushed the gun down. But how? I don't understand how this could happen at all. He said he pulled out his gun, fired 2 shots toward the passenger, and then fell off the car. If this is even plausible, I need a diagram or something. Jhovany Godoy was transported to St. Mary's Hospital in Russellville, where he was pronounced deceased. Jhovany Godoy was 18 years old at the time of his death. Nick Brown said he ran in Taya Waters' house, and that's where he spent the night. It wasn't until 5 days later when police came to Taya Waters' house to question her in the shooting. So when police go to Taya Waters' house to question her, she's suddenly blind. She hasn't seen Nick Brown in weeks, despite the fact that a few days earlier he was at her house and involved in a shooting. There was a guy at Taya Waters' house at the time the detective was there, and the detective was like, "Hey, you, who are you?" And the guy was like, "Not Nick Brown," and he gave him a false name and a false date of birth. Of course, the detective tried to run that information, and there was not a hit on it because he didn't exist. But the detective believed that it was Nick Brown, so he was able to place the young man in handcuffs and pat him down, where he found a .45 caliber weapon in his waistband and cocaine on his person. So both Taya Waters and Nick Brown were arrested. Nick Brown escaped custody before making it to the jail, and there was a little bit of a manhunt for him, but he was located and finally made his way to the juvenile detention facility. Taya Waters was charged with hindering apprehension, and her case is actually still pending, but there has been resolution in Nick Brown's case. So Nick Brown was charged with first-degree murder, third-degree escape, simultaneous possession of drugs and firearms, possession with intent to deliver, and possession of a counterfeit substance. On August 23rd, 2023, Nick Brown actually entered into a plea deal. He pled guilty to second-degree murder, third-degree escape, and possession of a controlled substance, Schedule 1 or 2. He was actually sentenced to 20 years in the Arkansas Department of Corrections. Nick was 16 years old when the murder was committed, but he is now 17 years old, so I think that he'll go straight to the ADC. So hopefully that will provide some feeling of justice to the Jhovany Godoy family. I do also want to say, because somebody had an issue with it the last time I made a video about Nick Brown, the events of what happened are told from Nick Brown's point of view. As believable or unbelievable as a person may find them, I find it pretty unbelievable myself, but Jhovany isn't here to tell what happened, and I haven't seen anyone else's account of what happened, so all I have to go on is what Nick told the police.